Hi, my name's Mick Grucock and I'm a UK-based self-taught amateur bowyer, and in this series of videos I hope to show you how you can make your very first wooden bow. In today's video, I'd hope to show you how I shape a bow stave. But I have a problem. So instead, I'm going to use video from my archive to show you the process that I follow when I'm shaping a stave into a bow. But it's important to say something else. I've made about 20 bows in the last 2 years, so throughout this entire series I'm showing you what it's like to be a beginner. This is important to say because this and the next stage of bow making is the point where many beginners freeze and become almost paralysed with fear. And the fear is of breaking the one and only piece of wood that you've got. And I want you to know that I know exactly what it's like to have that fear. But the only way to meet that fear is simply to have a go. After all, it's only a piece of stick. And another thing, in your first and early adventures as a bowyer, you're completely allowed to make bows that are utterly underwhelming. Don't obsess about draw weight, arrow speed, string follow and set. I'm not promoting failure, I'm simply suggesting that modest success when you're starting out as a bowyer is perfectly acceptable. Strive for modest success in the form of making a bow that works, that has reasonable shape and from which you can loose an arrow. So let's have a look at what to do with your stave. It's now that we start real work on our wood, and it can be green or seasoned. The process of shaping the bow is identical whether the stave be wet or dry. I start work on what might be called the sides of the stave. I'm forming the shape of the bow across its back, like this here. This is a finished bow, a lightweight hazel bow, and this is also hazel. So the shape I'm looking to create from this stave of wood is rather like this. In the case of a longbow, you will be making a steady taper from the middle of the stave toward the tips. The first tool can be an axe, ideal for mass removal of wood and detailed shaping. You can make a bow virtually start to finish with a good axe. But I started bow making with one of these. In other words, I started work with what I had. Always a useful thing to do rather than rush out and buy something new. The aim is to work down towards our guidelines, but never beyond them. If you're skilled with cutting tools, then you will be able to shape your bow accurately. But if you are learning the tools, go steady to avoid breaking through into the wood that will be your bow. Once I have removed the bulk of the wood, I prefer to change tools to a draw knife. This is personal choice. Work with the tools you have and with which you are comfortable. After this, I begin work on the depth taper. And to do this, I create new guidelines. In this simple longbow style bow, I will draw guides on both sides of the stave, tapering from the centre of the bow, the grip you might call it, out to the tips. And then once again, work begins with the tools to shape the wood down to the belly taper guidelines. And then we find ourselves with something that looks like a bow. And now it's time for another little talk. It's during this shaping stage of self-bow making that we may encounter knots or other issues with our wood. It's one of the challenges that make the creation of self-bows so fascinating. If we didn't have to face knots, holes, bumps and hollows, then bow making would simply be engineering. It's fanciful to call this stage of bow making art, but sometimes it feels like you need an artistic touch to deal with the oddities that a piece of wood throws at you. In life we're taught the best way to deal with obstacles is to go through them, but with bow making you can't do that. You have to go round them. So if you meet a knot, work around it carefully. Leave a little bit of extra wood. If you come to a hollow, think what it means for that bow limb. It might well be weaker than the rest of the wood. So try and allow an extra piece of width or depth. It's an aspect of bow making that I'm still learning, and I can't teach you what I know. It's something you do have to learn with your own hands and eyes. But slow down when you meet these obstacles, work out what's needed, and then carefully carry on. And you will end up with a working bow. So that's a brief overview of how I turn a stave of wood into something that resembles a bow. I've used the guidelines simply to avoid me cutting into the wood that will form the bow itself. The next stage is tillering, and that, as you might imagine, is another story entirely. I'll see you next time.